Hello friends, my name is Ryan, and today I'm going to tell you a story named The Hillsborough Disaster, a football tragedy and the quest for justice. This is a truly amazing story, full of twists, unexpected turns, and heart-stopping moments that will keep you on the edge of your seat. So, let's start. It was a sunny spring afternoon on April 15, 1989. The air was filled with excitement as thousands of football fans made their way to the Hillsborough Stadium in Sheffield, England, for what was supposed to be just another thrilling match in the FA Cup semi-final between Liverpool and Nottingham Forest. But little did anyone know, this game would turn into a nightmare that would haunt the lives of countless people for years to come. As the fans arrived at the stadium, they were eager to cheer on their teams, chanting, waving flags, and soaking in the atmosphere. The stadium was packed to capacity, and tensions were high. What should have been an afternoon of sport and fun quickly began to take a sinister turn. The match kicked off, but in the stands, something was terribly wrong. The crowds were too dense, and in a matter of minutes, the fans started to feel trapped, unable to move, as pressure mounted from every direction. It was chaos, pure and simple. People screamed for help, but their voices were drowned out by the noise and confusion. And then, disaster struck. In a split second, the fans in the pens, where the crowd was packed together, began to fall, some crushed by the weight of those around them, others unable to escape the suffocating force. The tension in the air turned into panic as people scrambled, desperate to break free. The tragedy unfolded so quickly that many couldn't understand what was happening until it was too late. But even amid the chaos, the worst part was yet to come. As the emergency services scrambled to respond, it was clear that something had gone horribly wrong in how the situation was handled. The lack of immediate action, the failure to properly manage the crowd, and the delayed response of the authorities all contributed to the catastrophe. The numbers were staggering. 96 innocent lives lost, and many more left with physical and emotional scars. The survivors and families of the victims were left to pick up the pieces, but the true horror lay in the fact that the authorities were quick to point fingers and shift the blame onto the victims themselves. The media played a part, too, feeding into the narrative that it was the fault of the Liverpool fans. But the story didn't end there. This tragedy wasn't just about the lives lost, it was about justice. It was about seeking the truth and holding those responsible accountable for their actions. The fight for justice would stretch on for decades, as families, survivors, and supporters banded together to demand answers. And that, my friends, is where the twists began. The fight for justice wasn't easy. For years, the families of the victims fought to clear their loved ones' names and expose the truth behind the disaster. Through the tireless work of dedicated people, legal battles, and public pressure, the cover-up started to unravel, and the truth began to surface. The victims were not to blame, they were simply in the wrong place at the wrong time, caught in a tragedy that could have been avoided. As time went on, the survivors and families never gave up. They refused to let the memory of the 96 fade away into the darkness. They demanded answers, they demanded justice. And slowly, they began to get what they deserved. But even though progress was made, the fight was far from over. The scars of Hillsborough would remain forever, etched into the memories of those who lived through it. The story of what happened that day is not just a story of loss, but one of courage, resilience, and the quest for truth. So, as we remember the victims of the Hillsborough disaster, let us not forget the journey of those who fought for justice. It took years, it took sacrifices, and it took the voices of the people rising up against the system that had failed them. And as the story comes to a close, I want to leave you with one message: justice may take time, but it is worth fighting for. If you enjoyed this story and want to hear more tales that will leave you at the edge of your seat, don't forget to subscribe to our channel and stay tuned for more gripping stories. Remember, the fight for justice is never over, and the stories of the past can inspire us to shape a better future. Subscribe to our channel, and let's try every day to keep these stories alive. This is just the beginning of a story that weaves suspense, justice, and resilience. You can continue building upon this by diving deeper into the personal stories of the victims, survivors, and the long legal battle that followed, keeping the tone tense and engaging throughout.